Hey everyone, I'm Allison.
I'm Bryce,
and we're Better Half Reviews. And today we're talking about Static Blood Moon. This is a game created by Jacob Cornell from Adversary Gaming Collective.
In Static Blood Moon, you are the leader of a tribe, and you're trying to get unique combinations of Gyrples onto your side, and depending on the combinations, you score points, and the person with the most points at the end of the game wins.
And this is coming to Kickstarter, so you can back it there if you're interested. So let's talk a little bit about this. What type of game is this?
It is an abstract strategy game.
It is.
And just for the record, it kind of reminds me of Noctiluca.
I hadn't even thought about that.
In a way.
Okay.
Just how you roll dice and they're on the board and you like pick up different combinations of dice and stuff. It's totally different, but in a way it reminds me of it.
Because there's dice in different sections and you're picking things up.
Yeah, you're picking up dice in different sections to and then putting them down.
But it's still very different.
Yeah. Anyway.
So you play this game, it's 3 rounds, and you have different ways that you're scoring each time. So when you're picking up dice in the first round, your strategy is going to change compared to the second round. And the third round is when your brain explodes.
That's because the third round, you score both how you score for the first round and the second round.
Yes.
Which is crazy. But yes, you go around, so in the setup, you roll all the dice, and then put each colored Gyrple, which is represented by the dice, on to the respective faction colors. And then you have this Great Sage. He'll move around the board as you take turns, and he kind of blocks your ability to take from that specific faction.
And the reason why you're taking certain dice, there's different colors, there's different numbers, and you're trying to make certain types of matches. So in round 1, what's the scoring?
Scoring is based on the triangles, but you score different points based on runs, a set of the same color, or a set of the same number.
So you have this kind of little shape, and so you're trying to get in the same triangle. There's,
4 different triangles.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's 4 different triangles. So if I'm going for the white triangle and I'm going for colors, I'm going to try to get all the same color. I don't care about the number necessarily.
But you can do multiple. So you could do sequence and color and score for both of that in the one triangle.
So yeah, you can try to build up your score and there's different points. So color is the most and sequence is the least. So it kind of eases you into the strategy. And then everybody has a white die. And this one's called, I think it's the third eye, and it goes in the middle. So you're going to roll that and say, I have a 7 or something. You get extra points for all the 7s on your board at the end of the round. Or if you're I really need to change something up, and we haven't talked about Gyrples yet, but you can discard this to draw 2 more Gyrples. So let's talk about Gyrples. See how many times I can say Gyrples in this review. Quick note, this is a prototype. So some of the components are not final, some of the Gyrples are all handmade. So if you're worried about how they look or whatever, it's just handmade stuff. But the Gyrples all have silly little faces, but on the back they have their abilities.
Yep. So some Gyrples do plus or minus a number. So if you pick up a 4, you can, turn it to a 5 or a 3, or sometimes it's plus or minus 2, or plus or minus 3, I think. I can't remember.
2 and 1. I don't think there's a 3.
Oh, okay. There's only 2 and 1. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then...
then there's also Gyrples that let you draw, it says color. So you can draw 2 of the same color. Usually in a round, you have to draw different colors.
So there is another Gyrple. It has OSC on the back. It might have something different in the final game, but OSC stands for Opal Sky Commune. It is a special faction that you can only pick up when you have one of these Gyrples.
And they're wild colors. So if you have 2 yellows and you can't really get any other yellows and you've got the Gyrple with that, cash that in and that can count as a yellow.
Yeah, so these special factions are wild, which can help out a lot.
Yeah, so when you're starting the game, you get your third eye, you roll it, and then you grab out, I think, three Gyrples. And it's all open knowledge, so everybody can see what's on your board, what Gyrples you've got. The faces are just for fun. So when you're playing, you're just gonna like grab 2 dice from different sections and lets you play the gerbil that changes, or lets you take 2 of the same color, and then you just go back and forth until everybody's filled up their board. You score it up, and then you start again, re-roll everything, set up the board. But for the second round, it's all about adjacent. So instead of triangles, you're going in like sets of 3, things that are next to each other. So then you got color, triples, and sequence. You can, like Bryce said before, you can kind of like double up on stuff. So if you have like 3 oranges in a row and you have like 5, 4, 3, the scoring gets pretty intense sometimes.
Yeah. And especially with the adjacent, you could have, say, like these 3 colors in a row, and then you could have these 3 as triples. So it could be like red, 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 and then 5, 5, 5, and this 5 is a different color. So it can get really confusing, and you can also get like a ton of points really quickly.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say necessarily confusing, but you got to take your time when you're doing the scoring. And then finally, the third round, it's these 2 scorings combined. So, yeah.
That's when it gets really challenging, when you're like, okay, you really have to plan things out. You're like, okay, I want to get maybe triples on this triangle, but then adjacent, it's going to be colors. And I don't know, it can get really fun.
I always make plans, and then I'm like, shoot, I boxed myself into a corner whenever I'm doing the third round. So it's like, I just got to pick like 2 things and just go with it. And yeah. And then there's, one other Gyrple power we didn't talk about. I'm not going to fish them out. But there's one that lets you move the Great Sage. Because when you take your turn, the Sage moves into a section, so you can't go into that section. So you draw from anywhere else. But if you have a Gyrple, it could let you move the Sage so that it opens up a spot. So like if you really need to get into that section before someone else does, that lets you do that. We did not mention this is a 2-player game only at this point in time. But yeah, so that's kind of your semi-talk around of like how to play the game and what's going on in the game. Let's talk about how we feel about it.
So?
I like it a lot. I enjoy like thinky, puzzly games, and this is just like a great little puzzle game, and I like that it plays well at 2 players where it's like give and take back and forth, and you're just trying to like figure out what's the best placement and how to deal with what the dice are and what you've got available. I die at the 3rd round. Like my brain really is like, I don't know what to do. I think I'm gonna go for this, and then I'm like, no, I'm doing it wrong. But I still have fun because I love that challenge of just trying to like figure out what's the best to do.
Yeah, I love how the first 2 rounds are kind of like
Practice.
Introductory practice for the 3rd round, and the 3rd round is always just so just frustrating,
but good,
and thinky. And you're just trying to maximize every single point you can, and you're like, I really need those certain dice, and you're like sitting there sweating, going, I hope the other person doesn't pick them. Please don't pick them. I really need that. Or you're like, oh man, I really need the Opal Sky Commune Gyrple. I really need that 1 dice. Do I sacrifice the 3rd eye to be able to draw 2 more, and hopefully I get 1? It's, yeah.
Yeah, I think having the Gyrples really helps this game shine, because if you weren't able to, manipulate any of the dice or like try to change around and like pick 2 of the same color sometimes, like that would make the game feel like too frustrating. I think having the Gyrples so you can manipulate it really helps it shine. There's one other thing, when you roll the die, I've had it like a couple times work against me where like I get 3s or something and Bryce rolls 5s, and then there's tons of 5s on the board, and I'm like, he has a whole bunch of potential to get extra points there, so I need to take some 5s. And where like I feel like my 3 ends up not being very helpful, but
that's where you can sacrifice it.
Yeah, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sacrifice it
early, knowing I'm not going to get much 3s because there's only 1 or 2 3s on the board, and I'm going to get my extra Gyrples and be sure I use those strategically.
So I like that this has like tons of strategy and it's thinky, but you have enough manipulation to feel like you can kind of like work something out in your favor.
Yep.
And plus, I also just like the look of everything. Like, I like that there's just lots of like purpley blues and pinks, and the Gyrples are very unique and silly.
Yeah, they're cute and silly. I hope they keep kind of the similar art style. I know this is like hand drawn, but
Yeah, no,
I like
but
it.
I think they're gonna be like that, and like there's a whole little backstory. Like we mentioned some of it, but with abstract strategy games, like you don't always think about the backstory. But I like that it's there for you, like especially if you want to kind of get into like the theme of it or whatever. But again, it's just a thinky puzzle, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So my recommendation for Static Blood Moon is it's worth a try if you really like the puzzly games where you're trying to figure out the best combinations. It's something that gets your brain thinking, and it's really a fun challenge.
Yeah, if you're into abstract strategy games, especially two-player abstract strategy games, this is definitely worth a spot in your collection.
So we'll put the link to the Kickstarter down below if you're interested, and you can check out more information.
So this has been Better Half Reviews. I'm Bryce.
I'm Allison.
Have fun.
Happy gaming.
I didn't steal hers this time.
I know. I thought you were about to. I'm gonna send the great sage after you. I was cutting it.
Oh. Last time, or else we have to scrap this whole review.
Bag of Gyrples. Bag of Gyrples. You have a bag of Gyrples. Not to be confused with meeples, because they're Gyrples. Okay.
Great sage.
The Great Sage.
You come up with every single name under the sun for him
I want
except
to
the
call
right
him
one.
like the Moon Mage and the Blood Sage, but it's the Great Sage. I'll get there
And
eventually.
the Great Wizard. And...
Or you can just call him the Giant Gyrple. GG for short. Anyway. Gyrples. I like saying Gyrples. Gyrple, Gyrple, Gyrple.